Hello, welcome to the Champions of the Future World Touring Car Championship here on the Champions of the Future official YouTube channel. The very first broadcast here with me, Chris Cohen, and helping me call the shots this evening is Adam Barth. Adam, Zandvoort is not often used as a touring car venue, so interesting choice and a track we're quite looking forward to seeing here.
Yes, of course, the World Touring Cars raced here once in 2007 and it did provide great racing there, so I'm expecting the same to happen here tonight. We've got 9 minutes to go in the qualifying session and I can't wait to see how the action will unfold tonight, Chris.
So Kia Optimas, as we are used to seeing in the touring car action provided by the iRacing service. By the way, thought I'd throw this one in there, out there for you, whatever. iRacing have a $50 yearly subscription at the moment up until the 4th of December, so you've got 2 days to grab that. $50 for an entire year, and normally I think it's around $10 a month, so huge saving to be had there if you're watching but you're not a subscriber to iRacing at the moment. Perhaps you're looking to get into it or something like that. Hard to beat that kind of value, Adam.
Yes, great value for money. In fact, I've already taken it, so go and get that subscription on iRacing and spend a year racing on the great service that it is.
And I think the Black Friday deal, as they call it, is one that a lot of the drivers have been taking as well. It's hard to turn that one down. But now down to the track, where we can see the first of the Team EOR drivers there, Steve Gray. He's qualifying right now in 9th place. We have a total of, let's see, we have a total of 13 cars who have set qualifying time so far, I believe.
Yes, we have, and as Steve Gray goes through the final few corners now, it's Ashley Sutton. It's on top of the standings with a time of 1 minute 32, and that's only about 4/10 of a second quicker. Michael Hall, he's in second position, and Michael Hall driving for the CQR Club team. In third, it's Alex Smolensky with Dan Blake in fourth. A few of these names you'll find familiar. They race in the British Sim Racers Touring Car Championship on YouTube. And then in fifth place, it's Robin Walters. So Robin Walters is the top of the privates, I do believe, Chris.
Smolensky is down as a privateer for me, but we might have had a late team entry there, I'm not sure.
Yes, I'm getting him confused with his team in the BSRCC. He drives for Elite 220.
And he's in fact kept the paint on. The cheeky Russian, is he Russian? The cheeky non-British driver. Anyway, Robin Walters, as you say, another privateer there in the bright red number 7 out on the track, and big gap really in the times that are being shown here, down to 8th place where we've got a second gap. Do you think that will play out in the racing? We might see some people drawing quite a long way ahead.
I personally think, Chris, it's going to be a lot closer in the race. We've seen in the BSRTC the qualifying differences meant nothing. We saw how close the cars were in that championship, so I think the same's going to happen tonight in these Kia Optimas. They are very quick when you get them each other in the slipstream.
Well, that 1 second gap is currently held by Russell Laidler for the Poot Fat Dubbers team. Interesting. Number 87 there in the CQR livery, and he is doing a 1:14.2 at the moment. And this is the national circuit, it's worth mentioning, not the Grand Prix circuit, otherwise we'd be seeing significantly higher times than that. And it differs in that the long straight, if you're familiar with Zandvoort, the big long straight after turn number 3 there is cut in half, basically, isn't it, as the track kind of cuts back on itself.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if we've gained an overtaking possibility out of this, because it's a bit of a long run down to this hairpin that cuts the track in half, and it's just going to be interesting to see if the cars are wide enough to get an overtaking pass done there.
And it is quite a narrow section of the track. We're looking at Dan Hunt now in a privateer entry, who's coming up to that section there, and it's not the widest corner, and it is very tight. Big bulky cars. Obviously these 2-litre turbos pushing out close to 400 horsepower here in the front wheel drive configuration, but like you say, it could be a bit shady trying to dive down the inside there. Who knows? We will soon see. It's the first of 2 races this evening that we've got for you, 20 minutes each, and the grid from the finishing positions of the first race will be reversed entirely for the second race, so whoever wins is going to be starting at the back, excluding any kind of disqualifications or whatnot, which will automatically start further back, but potentially a reason to stay in it, Adam, even if you can't finish as highly as you'd like in the first race.
Yes, because he who shall be last shall be first in this second race at Zandvoort. And I don't know if we're going to see any strategic games being played. We've seen in the real life World Touring Car Championship how people used to play the reverse grid game pretty well. I remember Alan Menu used to do that. It's going to be interesting to see if anyone has sustained any damage and then decides to drop back so they can get the possible grid spot for race 2.
I'm not quite clear on fast repairs in this particular format. I'm assuming that these guys don't have any, so any kind of damage would put them out of the race, but I could be wrong on that one.
Yes, I don't really know either. However, I've just looked at the rulebook and found that the first start, the race one, will be a rolling start, so it's going to be interesting to see how those drivers handle that going into Tarzan for the first time.
Well, it certainly will, and we're coming up to that famous corner now, and you can see it is quite possible to go round the outside here, which would put you in a disadvantageous position down into 2, but you know, we've seen it done before in various real life racing series. Around the outside there, it's not a particularly tight corner, so could see 2 wide going into turn 1, especially with a rolling start. That might be interesting, and with a smaller field, of course, it means everyone's going to be a lot closer together at the start.
Yeah, and everyone will be trying to get into single file going into that slowest part of the track, so expect cars to speak across each other and possibly a bit of context as we head down into turn 3 and 4.
Pro tip for you if you're broadcasting on YouTube, always turn off the other sounds from all your other applications. Apologies for that little sound in the background there. That wasn't supposed to make it onto the broadcast. But anyway, Ben Gregory, our favourite joypad control pad player, is out in force for Avid Chronic Racing in the number 99 there, with a big Union flag on the roof. How could you miss that? He's probably the only gamepad player I know, to be fair, in iRacing, unless you know differently.
Yes, I know one other, Andrew Woodhouse, who's the lead commentator for the British Sim Racers Touring Car Championship, and he seems to be going well with the controller. He managed to win a race last time out, so the controller, even though it might not be as realistic as the wheel, it still manages to give you some great results.
Ah, interesting that these guys can be so quick. So Gregory in 7th, and Dan Blake currently in 3rd place. Interestingly, 2 real racing drivers who obviously they're sim racing right now, but they participate in real racing, shall we say, are in the top 3. So Dan Blake and Ash Sutton there, who appears as AJ on the timing for some reason. They are, you know, if they'd won their respective championships this year, Adam, we might have had to call this Champions of the Now.
Exactly. Ashley Sutton racing in the Dunlop MSA Formula 4 Championship that supports the British touring car events, and he had a pretty good season. I think he was nominated for a BSR DC award, so another great season prospects for him. And as you said, in the top 3, other competitive drivers racing as well, so we've got some top class talent in this Champions of the Future race tonight.
Yeah, we certainly have. Dan Blake, exciting driver. We've seen him in the Hyundai Coupe Cup, and he has been doing extremely well there, keeping his car out of trouble where others might have had a few dings, and looking forward to another season if he can find the sponsorship. So if you fancy sponsoring him, or even chipping in and part sponsoring him for another season, he'd surely appreciate to hear from you, and your questions, comments and general discussion, course, very welcome, whether it's live or you're watching the recorded version later here on the YouTube channel for Champions of the Future. We've got 45 seconds left. Looks like Sutton is safe on top in the pole position. What's your thoughts, Adam?
Yeah, that's not a major surprise. We've seen Ashley Sutton in the British Sim Racers Touring Car Championship have numerous amounts of success, especially winning race 2, I do believe. So it was no really big surprise to see him at the top of the standings. And also another British Sim Racers Touring Car Championship driver, Alex Smolensky, in 2nd place. In fact, we've got BSRTC drivers 1st, 2nd, 4th, 7th, 8th, and 11th, and 14th as well. So the main proportion of this grid is BSRTC drivers, but that's a good thing. Shows you that we've got some drivers that know how to race these Gear Optimas.
Well, the time is up, Adam. Smolensky slips into 2nd place, beating out Michael Hall and Dan Blake, pushing them both down a position. And everyone who has started their lap will get to finish it in this qualifying session. If you haven't started a lap, you're out of luck. And we're looking at just a few cars out on track. Blake looking to reclaim his third position with a good lap here. He will need to he'll need to shave off about 0.15 on the current time. Robert Plumley and Dan Hunt are out there on the track, and I understand that Robert Plumley has just acquired himself an Oculus Rift virtual reality headset, and he is using that for one of the first times ever in tonight's race. Tried one of those, Adam?
No, sadly not, Chris. A bit out of my price range, but good to see that Robert Plumley's giving it a go.
Well, we'll have to see how he gets on, as Dan Blake has not managed to beat that time, so he's going to be stuck with fourth. But let's see what Plumley can do. 1:15.2 to beat as he comes over the line. He is the last driver in the qualifying session. 1:15.7, not good enough, so the qualifying positions will stay as they are. Those top 10 positions on your screen right now are going to be the starting positions. So Sutton, not a massive surprise, as you say, Adam, on pole with Smolensky alongside.
Yes, Ashley Sutton has a position advantage of 0.3 of a second, but that will be nothing as they will start side by side going into Tarzan for the first time on this rolling start.
Yeah, well, that's going to be very, very interesting, I think, to get this thing underway. We've got 20 minutes of actual racing to come, as the cars will be making their way onto the grid pretty soon. And a driver we haven't mentioned yet, probably the hardest name to pronounce here, is 6th place qualifier Joshua Borja-Bonkowski, who is allegedly joining us from Hawaii. So that's interesting in itself, the number 542 there in the grey machine. And he's in good stead for a good start here, although I think the positions have got slightly confused, so we'll get rid of those. As we say, Sutton on pole for CQR Fusion. Now we're waiting on the other cars to line up behind him. We can see Smolensky will join him alongside on the outside of the track. But with the rolling start, this doesn't look like a rolling start though, does it? I've got to say. Is it going to be a full lap before we get going? Because they are lining up on the grid.
Yes, it is, because we have got a pace car at the front of the pack, Chris, so that usually gives us signs of a rolling start. The cars are just forming up now. We've got a few seconds to go before we head on the parade lap, and usually we see in iRacing with these rolling starts, the pole position driver has a bit of an advantage because he gets to judge the pace coming to the green flag.
Yeah, of course, and Ash Sutton is no stranger to competitive racing in real life as well, which will give him the upper hand, as the Ford Mustang pace car will lead them around. And when the pace car pulls into the pits, of course, the flag will go green, but no overtaking before that start-finish line, I believe.
Yes, no overtaking until they cross the start-finish line to start the race. So Ashley Sutton should be sitting pretty because he knows that Smolensky won't be able to do anything really until he gets to Tarzan.
And Smolensky, one of the more aggressive drivers from his history that we've seen in the BSRTC that he's racing in as well. Could that be an issue going down to turn one?
Yes, but Ashley Sutton's a quite physical racer as well, so both of them will know what they're doing going into the first corner. Also, the likes of Ellis Stevens, I don't know whether he's managed to take the start, but he has also got a reputation for being a bit physical in the British Sim Racers Touring Car Championship. And watch out for Ben Gregory. He managed to win the Pro-Am Championship last season, so he should be one to watch as well. He's starting in 7th place.
Well, Ellis Stevens is out there on the track. Let's see if we can find his car right now. He seems to have started a long way back, so he's going to be starting from the back, but he's not a slow driver by any means, so we're expecting to see Stevens in that eBay Motors themed paint job coming through the field. And he's got the number 1 as well, which doesn't mean he's champion because we've never had this series before, so it's completely new. If you're just tuning in, you're watching us live, or you decided to start the recorded version 15 minutes in for whatever reason, this is Champions of the Future from Zandvoort, the World Touring Car Series, and Ellis Stevens is quite a long way back, isn't he? He's not part of the field, really.
Yeah, he is, so he needs to pick up a pace a bit. He's in 13th place as a result of 2 cars starting from the pit lane, and now I believe they are Russell Layla and Dan Hunt. But Ellis Stevens, he's a 2-time champion of the BSRTC, so I presume he's going to get his car into the gear now and then roll up hopefully and catch the rest of the pack, as we are more than halfway around this formation lap now.
Well, a a 60 mph limit on the pace car means that it is taking a while to get around. But we should have about 20 minutes of racing for you when that flag does finally drop. And reverse grid in race 2. And race 2, by the way, is scheduled to start at 9 PM, which isn't going to happen. Because, or am I wrong? It might be 10 past 9. I should know these facts. But we might run a little bit over just because of the pace lap. We didn't quite account for that. Interesting to see what happens. I've got to say though, the car of the evening has got to go to that blue and pink machine in the midfield of your picture there. That is a completely horrible coloured car. Sorry, but that is really not good to look at. Anyway, we're just coming up here as Sutton backs up the field out of the final corner, waits for the pace car to go in. When is he going to make his move? No one can get past him just yet. Smolenski just behind, and the rest of the pack are going to be waiting in line. It will be a 2-wide start, but he's got to go. He's got to wait until Sutton goes, and he's still not gone. He's backed off from the pace car. The pace car is in, so Sutton could go at any moment now. He has to go before the line, obviously, otherwise the other drivers are going to get around him, but he's still waiting. They're green.
Go. Well, we saw a few cars going into the back of each other there, Chris, didn't we? But we're green now.
Well, let's hope everybody's made it and don't crash before you even get to the first corner. As we come down there now, we'll just make sure everybody can get in there cleanly. Stephen's already making a move, but I don't think he's going to get through there.
Big crash, Smolenski and Hall. What did I say at the beginning of the show, Chris? Cars turning across each other, both Hall and Smolenski on their roofs, and we're only one corner in.
Wow, that's very, very quick to have that happen. Let's go back and have another look at that one on the replay straight away. This is the view of Smolenski's car on the inside here, as we come down to that infamous first corner here. You can see they're side by side already. Smolenski didn't quite get the jump that he wanted on Hall, and I don't think Smolenski knew that Hall was on his outside, did he?
Yeah, very unfortunate for the first corner of this brand new series, but as we head round the chicane for the first time and down to the final 2 corners, it's Martin Johnson that's now under pressure, because he has now got Robin Walters right with him now as we head into this right-hander. Johnson has to take the inside line, and Walters should have the straight line speed advantage as we head through the final corner for the first time.
So Martin Johnson running in 4th place at the moment. I'm just going to update these positions for you on the screen. Blake moves up to 2nd and Laidler into 3rd as a result of that retirement between Hall and Smolenski. And we did say before, he's one of the more aggressive drivers. I do think it was just a genuine error though, and he didn't realise that he needed to leave the room for Michael Hall, who was still on his outside. And Martin Johnson under all sorts of pressure. And so much pressure he's got onto the grass there, Adam.
Walters just got hit by Gregory, I do believe, so contact everywhere you look as we head up the hill for the second time. Johnson remains in 4th, but Walters has now gone down to 6th place.
Well, Gregory seemed to get an unfair advantage there, if I do say so, but let's have a look on the replay and just make sure. Yeah, there's the nudge. A little bit late on the brakes from Gregory. Perhaps Walters was early on the brakes to try and avoid any potential incident with the flailing car of Johnson up in front, but Gregory's now up to 5th place. Walters is shedding positions though in that red number 7, as he's lost another one to Ben Palmer while we've been showing you that replay.
Yes, Ben Palmer is up another position. I think it was Walters running a little bit wide on the exit of that tight hairpin, but he's now dropped another position. Ben Gregory's got a damage on the front end of that Kia Optima as he heads down the front straight. Well,
we can actually see the front just about of Gregory's machine as we come into the braking area down onto turn 1. Well, that's not the clearest view on your cameras there, sorry about that, but might be slowing him down a little bit. We'll have to find out.
Yeah, let's have a look at the lap times. Last time around, Ben Gregory did a 1 minute 16.002, whilst the car behind him in 6th, Ben Palmer, did a 1 minute 15. So 0.3 of a second quicker, but that's not going to help Ben Palmer at all by running onto the curbs and the grass. That's allowed Ben Gregory to pull away a bit now as we head down this back straight.
Well, riding on board with the 000 car of Ben Palmer, who's in 6th place right now, chasing down Ben Gregory, and just look at the speed he managed to keep into that really tight entry onto the national part of the circuit. And Gregory, just that car does not look stable to me, Adam.
Yeah, I wonder if the toe's been knocked out a bit as a result of that contact as we head down towards the final 2 corners.
Palmer's got a slowdown, I think.
You might be right. I've been driving this circuit before, Chris, and it is possible to get a slowdown by running over those curves a bit too much. He's now dropped down to 8th position.
So 2 positions dropped for Ben Palmer. Meanwhile, former double champion of the British Sim Racers Touring Car Championship, Ellis Stevens, is up to 9th position from his back of the field start. He's duking it out right now with Dan Hunt. Dan Hunt's on the outside, Stevens on the inside. These two have been racing together for long enough to keep it out of each other's faces, surely.
Yes, of course, because Daniel Hunt races in the BSRTC as well, and he's now through up into 9th place. Ellis Stevens just sort of moved over and gave it to him. I don't know whether Ellis Stevens is thinking of playing a long game so that he can get that reverse grid pole, don't forget. So Ellis Stevens down to 10th place now.
And friend Bonkowski is in the 11th spot just behind. I'm going to call him Bonkowski. I don't want to try and pronounce his whole name every time, even though that's our job, pronouncing people's names effectively. Some positions up on your screen, and you can see now that Ash Sutton is just going to take it easy now from here, really, with 17 laps to go. 4-second gap already, Adam.
Yeah, lapping about half a second quicker than the car in second place, Dan Blake. So we were saying before we went on air, Chris, it'd be battle of the best of the rest, and it sure looks like that at the moment, because Ashley Sutton's now got a 5-second lead. But the battle for 5th, it's shaping up once again as Ben Gregory has a new challenger to his 5th place, and that's Robin Walters as we head down the straight.
Now it was Walters that Gregory was behind and knocked him out of the way, effectively. So Walters having a look down the inside, but no luck making any progress on the 99 car up in front. It's not the easiest place to overtake into the early part of the Zandvoort lap, but if he's going to make it work, it's going to be into one of these braking areas, and well, one of those is coming up for Robin Walters. And we were talking about this before. Is it possible to get these big, wide, bulky cars around on the entry of the national circuit? And I guess we're about to find out.
Yep, here we go, through the left-hander and then hard on the brakes, just not close enough. I think while we were looking at the replay at the start... Oh no, Gregory's gone wide. I'll get onto that in a minute. It looks like Robin Walters is going to go down the inside. No, he's not close enough. Gregory just has enough speed so that he can hold off the challenge of Walters behind. I was just going to say, Chris, at the start of the race, while we were looking at the replay of Smolensky flying through the air, Martin Johnson did attempt to have a move down the inside. However, it just didn't work out. He went a bit wide. So you've really got to have a lunge going into that right-hand hairpin.
Well, I tell you what, I think Walters is playing a really cautious game, which might be to his credit, or it might be to his discredit, we'll find out. But that's the second time we've seen him back off when a slight incident occurred in front of him, and that really gave the advantage to Steve Gray of Team EOR just behind him. Thought Gray might have had a move, but Walters has got some connection problems now. But it seems like Walters is straight back on the tail of Ben Gregory, even though he had to back out of the throttle coming out of that last, a few corners ago, I should say.
Yeah, it's probably that front end damage that seems to be affecting Gregory as we head through the slowest part of the track and up the hill down towards that hairpin. Last time around, Robin Walters did a 1 minute 15.7. That was 0.3 of a second quicker than Gregory, who did a 1 minute 15.4. So Robin Walters, the privateer, is still lapping quicker as Gregory again goes way too deep. And they're going to go side by side now as we head down to the chicane, Chris.
Wow, that was incredible. Walters just making a little bit of a dent in Gregory's door there. There's nowhere for him to go, really. And he wasn't going to back out of that one, not with Steve Gray right behind him. But Gregory manages to get away with it again. Gregory's on thin ice here, and I think it's going to break at any moment.
I'm sure Robin Walters has now started to realise that that hairpin is the weakness spot for Ben Gregory, and I'm sure he'll shape him up through the rest of the lap and then hope that Ben Gregory can make a mistake going into that hairpin once again. We've still got 8 minutes to go in this first race. We're 12 minutes into it already. So Robin Walters has got a little bit of time to get this move done on Ben Gregory now.
Now we've got a lap counter into the in the top left corner of the screen. But maybe you can confirm for us, Adam, whether it is actually a timed event and the laps are irrelevant.
Yes, it is a timed race. It's 20 minutes for both of the races here tonight as Gregory goes over those curbs, and that just allows Robin Walters to close in on him even more.
Well, the worst thing for Gregory now would be to get... Well, the worst thing would be to crash into the wall, I guess, but the next worst thing would be to get a slowdown on one of those curbs. And a slowdown penalty means that he has to slow down to below racing speed and give up any time that he's gained, but of course the iRacing service always makes you give up more time than you would have gained. So effectively, you lose out big time, and that would definitely be the place to Robin Walters. He is... Well, he's got a little bit of frontal damage on that car, but he's pushing pretty hard at this stage in the race, and advantage to Walters, I would say, as this pack has now dropped back, Adam, from the 4th place and above.
Yeah, there is now a gap of 3 seconds between Martin Johnson in 4th and Gregory in 5th, and Martin Johnson lapping half a second quicker than this pack. So as we come across the line, once again, we've got 12 laps to go. However, I'm sure we're not going to get the 20 laps done with 6 laps still to go. Walters has a look again down into Tarzan. Ben Gregory was good at the hairpin halfway around the lap this time around, so Walters wasn't able to mount that much of a challenge. But this is the part of the track where Walters seems to close in through this left-hander and then hard on the brakes through this right-hander. Gregory runs a bit wide again across that gravel pit and down into the left-hander. He's all over the place now. This is surely going to give Walters the advantage as we head up this hill down towards that hairpin.
Well, Gregory's defending hard. He's taken the inside line already. He can't move across. Well, he does move across. I didn't think he'd be able to move across, and he gets punished for it as well as he's off into the cones. The two of them are as well. Gregory's turned him round. Well,
retaliation.
That is a bit of retaliation, I feel, but the two of them have lost a huge amount of positions. Walters has turned around now, and somebody else is off as well. That's not Robert Plumley just up in front. That's Ashley Owen. And I wonder what happened to Owen. Let's go back and have another look at that one, because I'm not sure if that was the same incident. Oh, it's not. It's Bonkowski's gone into the back of Owen at the same corner, Adam. We're just seeing that on the replay now. And Owen has gone around.
He gets hit twice by him as well in the entry and on the apex and on the exit, and that's what did it for Ashley Owen. Ashley Owen now down to 12th place. It's what the order looks like now. It's Stephen Gray up in 5th with Ben Palmer in 6th. Ben Gregory is now dropped down to 7th place, and I think Walters is... I don't know, he's not showing up on my... He's down to 13th place now. So he's going to be... Even though he's down in 13th place, he should benefit from that reverse grid in the second race.
Well, I've got to say, it looks as though, to me, without wanting to pass too much judgment on these guys, who are still obviously under a lot of pressure and trying very hard to race as clean as possible, that Gregory didn't cut Walters up by moving across the track there. And Walters was just a little bit late on the brakes, perhaps, and then Gregory seemed to be wanting to have none of it. He didn't want to give the place to Walters and looked to turn him around, but only after he'd already been hit. I think that might be one for the stewards there to resolve that one. I'm sure Walters won't be happy. I'm sure Gregory won't be happy about being hit from behind, but all instigated really by that little tap earlier on in the race when Gregory got into the back of Walters, it's got to be said.
Yeah, that's been building up for quite some time. Also, there's not that much runoff area down at that hairpin. There's a barrier that separates this track from the Grand Prix circuit, and then on the exit of the corner is a short bit of grass, and then there's an Armco barrier. So I don't know whether Ben Gregory was trying to get back onto the track as quickly as he could because of that Armco barrier quickly emerging. And I think, sadly, it was Robin Walters that got hit as a result.
Well, that might well be the case, but it's given the advantage to the guys who were just behind there. Johnson maintains 4th, as you say. Steve Gray now in 5th place, and Ben Palmer up to 6th with Dan Hunt 7th. So Stevens is far enough behind now, Dan Hunt. We saw him being overtaken earlier, but Stevens is far enough back that he's actually behind Ben Gregory, who has got back on the track. But far from an incident-free race so far. Just makes it all the more exciting to watch, I suppose, as Laidler is now putting Dan Blake under extreme threat for the second position.
Yes, he is. We've just got 2.5 minutes to go then in this opening race. And what do you expect, Chris? This is touring car racing. We expect to see a bit of contact here and there as we come across the line. Dan Blake has got a 0.2 second advantage over Russell Laidler as he come across the line. Blake has to defend going into the first corner. Tarzan, and look at Laidler trying to get the cut back as best as he could, using all of the curbs there as we head down towards this tight, twisty section of the racetrack. We've got about 3 laps or so left of action here, so Russell Laidler really needs to hurry this up if he wants to get that second place away from Dan Blake.
So just to clarify, why you're seeing 10 laps in the top left, I have no idea, but it is a timed race, so once the time's up, the laps don't matter. So as Adam says, Mr. Adam Statman Bath, there's about 3 laps left, then there are 3 laps left. But I'm not convinced that Dan Blake had to defend there. I think he's being more defensive than he needs to be, and he should just focus on the pace, because he had it. He definitely had it to keep everyone else at bay for the entire race, and I think he's now just getting a little bit flustered by the Poot Fat Dubbers driver and his mirrors.
and the lap time show, because last time around Dan Blake did a 1 minute 15.3 whilst Russell Layla did a 1:14.9, so a half a second difference between these two as we come through the final corner. Layla goes a bit too wide, and that's going to have him lose a bit of a slipstream advantage to come across the line. Dan Blake is 9.4 seconds behind Ashley Sutton, who's completely in a league of his own. It's going to be interesting to see what he does in the second race. Dan Blake again defending into Tarzan, and as you're saying, Chris, he doesn't really need to do that because that's just slowing him down even more.
Well, Laidler's going to have to be patient because while that big wide Kia Optima is blocking the entire corner effectively, there's absolutely nowhere for him to go. But he's got the upper hand at the moment. He just needs to make it work for him. No huge straights here, so the draft, while it comes into play, is not massively effective. We've got the start-finish straight, and then the place on the track where they are now, which is short and straight. Oh, more contact down at the same corner. Blake takes one in the rear from Laidler, and neither car seems to have been put off too much by that, so that's how the guys at the top do it and get away with it, it seems. Meanwhile, 5th place, Dan Hunt. He has leapfrogged Stephen Gray and Ben Palmer, and is leaving them for dust, Adam.
Yeah, a late resurgence here by Dan Hunt. We saw him languishing in the lower half of the top 10 for the first 2/3 of the race, but all of that action in the last third seems to have allowed him to elevate himself up to inside the top 5 as Ashley Owen now starts his final lap of the race, I do believe. He's got a 9.8 second advantage over Dan Blake. Russell Layla seems to have dropped back a bit now after sustaining that front end damage, but I'm sure he's going to be right onto the back of Dan Blake now as we're on final lap of the race.
And Ashley Sutton, I should point out. You did say Ashley Owen now, I'm not sure if you're aware.
Yeah, sorry, Ashley Sutton leading. Ashley Owen, by the way, is down in 11th place.
After that nudge from behind from Bonkowski, who... And Owen will surely feel like he deserves to have that 10th back off Bonkowski, but it's not to be, and the gap is now 7 seconds, so the positions pretty much look like they're going to finish as they are right now. But let's see if the checkered flag comes out, or whether they can get round one more lap. What's the timer doing, Adam?
We're just about to hit 21 minutes, so I think this should be the final few corners now for Ashley Sutton to take that opening victory. Just looking at the reverse grid, I believe it's, if they're counting retirements, I think it's going to be Smolensky on the pole with Hall in second, but we'll see what happens. Here comes Ashley Sutton through the final corner.
Ashley Sutton is going to win the first race of the first season here on Champions of the Future. He takes it at Zandvoort in quite a convincing style there by an interval of 10 seconds over Dan Blake in second. Laidler just couldn't manage to get that second place. He tried as hard as he could, and I really thought he'd make a move for it, but it wasn't to be. So Laidler settling for 3rd place there. Johnson, another 9 seconds back with Dan Hunt in tow, and I think Dan Hunt didn't qualify half as well as he could have. He could have come even higher than that.
Yes, he could, from 13th on to 5th. They're still racing at the moment, which kind of surprises me because it says on my regulations that the races take 20 minutes, and it does on the iRacing info window, but they seem to be racing at the moment.
Well, we've declared the results of the race. I didn't expect you to be mistaken in that regard. Interestingly, surely they can't go for another 7 minutes. 7 laps, rather.
Well, it says on my info that the race is 20 minutes / 20 laps, and 20 minutes has come first, so I presume that's a checkered flag as Dan Hunt gets past Martin Johnson. So,
well, they haven't slowed down, Adam. I mean, it looks like Sutton's still doing race pace to me.
Okay, let's just carry on then as Dan Hunt and Martin Johnson go side by side through the chicane. This is a great battle shaping up for 4th place at the moment.
Well, I'm just wondering where the checkered flag is. But anyway, Johnson just about holding on. Hunt determined to take that place side by side through the final corner as we come onto the start-finish straight for a few extra laps that we hadn't planned for in the commentary box, but never mind, because Dan Hunt has the advantage now down the inside. Takes the position from Johnson in style. Johnson must be ruining his choice of paint as well on the broadcast, because that looks awful. But he's not ruining his choice of braking point there, although he's overcooked it. He's gone down the outside now because Hunt was a little bit tighter on the brakes. But here comes Johnson, another role reversal. Johnson's into the back of Hunt. Oh, disaster! Hunt's off. Johnson survived. Hunt was collected by Martin Johnson, Adam.
Yeah, I thought that was going to happen. Johnson on the exit had just enough of an overlap to get the move done. But sadly, the two went side by side through a corner you don't want to do that in, and the two resulted in contact. So that's a shame for Dan Hunt. He is now back in the pits, and I think Martin Johnson has a few issues because he's just now gone in way too deep into that hairpin. So that's a shame, but it's now elevated Stephen Gray back up into fourth with Ben Palmer in fifth.
Well, it is a real shame. Those two are having an absolute ding-dong of a battle out there on the track, and it is... I'm not sure what's going on with the cameras there. There we go, back with the correct cameraman after all, but Steve Gray in fourth place. And also a battle here between Ben Palmer and Ben Gregory, the two Bens, as it were, for fifth and sixth place.
Through the final corner, then across the line they go. 5 laps still to go.
Oh, sorry, Adam. I'm just going to cut in there because Dan Blake is defending rapidly from Russell Laidler right now. Just noticed that out on the track.
Yes, he is. So the battle for second resumes now as we head out of this left-hander and up the hill down to the hairpin. Russell Laidler desperate to get past Dan Blake again. They had a bit of contact at this corner a few laps ago. Will Russell Laidler try the same move? Dan Blake parks his car on the apex, and again they hit each other. It's almost the identical crash they had a few laps ago, Chris.
And they both survive again, so I think it's just a little bit of rough and tumble there from Laidler, but it could easily get out of hand, and Blake is going to be wondering what he's got to do to keep Laidler behind him. And I guess it becomes at some point in the race, Adam, it becomes a question of when do I move over and let this guy through, because he's clearly faster than me over the course of the race. But Blake's wants to win. He wants to win. He won't win this race now, 12 seconds back, but he wants to get as high as possible, and understandably, I suppose.
Okay, now this has just perplexed me even more. It's now being shown as we're on the final lap of the race with 4 laps still to go. So Ashley Sutton has got a 12.3 second lead. I don't know what time they're going on. 25 minutes it looks like. So as we head through the final corner and as we head through this left-hander and up the hill, this looks like it's going to be the final lap of the race, Chris.
Well, if it is the last lap, who's going to get this between Gregory and Palmer? Or have we just entered the fast lap? No, this isn't a checkered flag, is it? We've got one more. Well,
yes, it is.
And Palmer's got it for now. Well, absolute confusion here in the commentary box, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely no idea what's going on, but we thought it was 20 minutes, and then we thought it was 21 laps, and then our current theory was 25 minutes, I guess.
Yes, so here's the current battle for second place. I think Ashley Sutton in a few moments' time is going to take that checkered flag for the first race here in the World Touring Car Championship Winter Series as we head through the left-hander. Laidler's just too far away to get it done, I think, Chris.
Only a couple of corners to go. Dan Blake defending now. We'll go back to the start-finish line where Ash Sutton does take the victory this time. For real this time. I've declared it. Second time this evening, and that is the first time it's actually counted. So 12-second gap there with a victory for Ash Sutton. And Laidler can't do enough. I don't think he could have done a lot more than what he did do, but takes that third place anyway, Adam.
Yeah, he set quicker lap times, he tried to overtake him in key spots, and Dan Blake just put up a resurgent defence, and he managed to take that second place. So from 4th on the grid to 2nd, that's a good result for Dan Blake, and from 8th on the grid to 3rd. So Blake and Laidler, two keen fighters through the pack there.
Absolutely. 4th place Steve Gray, 5th place Ben Palmer, 6th place Gregory misses out after a controversial race. Johnson 7th. Owen's coming over the line now in 8th place, and we lost Bonkowski during that race. I'm not sure what happened to him, but he's gone, and Walters retired as well. So only 9 finishers, the last of whom is the Oculus Rift wearing Robert Plumley, the privateer driver, who is coming over the line now to complete the race. And it's still... No, he's not.
Into the pits. So
well, he's going to finish by going into the pits because he's over the line, surely.
Yeah, that will count. Across the line he goes. He gets 9th place. The cars that finished the lap down, as you said, Joshua Borch-Bonkowski, Robin Walters, Dan Hunt, Ellis Stevens, Michael Hall and Smolensky. It's going to be interesting to see if they get those reverse grid pole positions.
Well, what confuses me is the timing on it, because it definitely was more than 20 minutes, as you say. And, neither of us can quite work that one out. Results up on your screen anyway for race 1 of the evening. And I think that throws us out a little bit in terms of the schedule for race 2. But we'll be bringing you that one here on the Champions of the Future YouTube channel in a little while anyway, whatever happens. So I'm sure it will be running, and it will be reverse grid as well. But question is, Adam, how are they running this reverse grid? Considering that Smolensky and Hall, two of the faster drivers, went off on the first corner, do they have to finish the race for them to be counted at the front? in the reverse grid. Convention would say yes, iRacing might say no.
Yes, I wonder if there's a rule somewhere saying that you have to be a classified finisher. In the British Sim Racers Touring Championship, we class a classified finisher as being a person that finished one lap down. So that would put, in theory, Robin Walters onto pole position, who was the first car that finished one lap down. So he would line up alongside Joshua Borg-Bonkowski. So it's going to be interesting to see how the organisers play it. We should have a 10-minute practice session now. It's 10 past the hour, and then at 20 past the hour it should be the race 2 reverse grid, which should be, I say, 20 minutes, but obviously race 1 wasn't.
Well, let's find out. So, excitement, action, confusion in the commentary box, so apologies for that, but overall a thoroughly enjoyable first experience of the World Touring Championship of the Champions of the Future. Bit of a mouthful here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Do hit that subscribe button down at the bottom of your YouTube player or whatever it is you're watching on, because we've got loads more racing for you. This is a 4 event season, 8 races in total, and more in the pipeline as well, including the 2.4 hours of Road Atlanta, the very first Champions of the Future endurance event, which is on tomorrow night as well. More details on that on our next broadcast, which will be in about 10 minutes, I assume, although our timekeeping this evening has obviously not been that great. But from me, Chris Cohen, and Adam Barth, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in a moment.